Just record a podcast about nothing. Why are we doing an after party?
Because
there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah, our pop culture topics are so thin.
Would have been like a 30-minute episode about three topics.
What did you think we were going to get into? It was Glassjaw, Runaways, and I didn't even ever bring a movie topic to the table.
Yeah.
We could have talked about Justice League and Zack Snyder for the millionth time, but I didn't have any interest in doing that.
I thought you brought something up, but I just forgot about it. So
I mean, the only thing that we'll talk about the top 50 list. I'm going to explain it here, but I mean that's not a movie topic either. So
let's pump the brakes a little bit. Let's how was your Thanksgiving?
It was good.
Yeah? You like that?
I don't know how much I can go into it. I probably can't go into it at all, really. But
you trying to talk about Friendsgiving right now?
No.
Okay.
I was talking about Thanksgiving. I mean, I could talk about Friendsgiving. If
I don't understand the concept of Friendsgiving. It's been something that's like people do, and yeah, I don't think I like it.
You know why? It's because you didn't grow up with a friends group.
That's not true. I mean, there's like if I wanted to pursue a Friendsgiving, we could do a Friendsgiving.
You have had a tight knit friends group like through high school up into your adult life. I don't think that's the case. You had bandmates, and you have a.
You talking about people I could invite?
I'm talking about. Have you had a close knit tight group that you literally did everything with for years on end through high school, in the way that I have?
It's much smaller. It's much smaller, but that's not what I'm saying. Like, you don't even talk to a handful of those people
now.
Often. Yeah,
like up until like last year.
That's why it's interesting. That's why it's fascinating, because the older people get, the more they grow apart.
Yeah,
obviously, their interests change, their values change.
Yeah,
some people vote for Trump, some people don't. That's like
it. I mean, my Friendsgiving, it kind of felt weird. I mean, just because I hadn't done something like that in a while, it kind of felt weird. But no, I loved it. But take away the Friendsgiving, it's just you all getting together. And okay, we don't usually bring dishes over. Like, we don't usually hang out, and we can rely on Eric to bring the mashed potatoes. Like, that doesn't usually happen. So
right,
okay, there are a couple of particular factors at play here, but ultimately it's just everybody coming together to hang out, and we've done that a million times over. So
we had 20 people at my Thanksgiving.
I think that's the part that's interesting, is that talking about people splitting up, it's actually my family holidays that are getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Because
happens.
Because, when you're growing up, at least for me, my grandfather on my mother's side is the patriarch of the family, and he has 4 kids, one being my mom, and then all of those kids. But now it's separating because there are new grandfathers coming into play. And like my mom is a grandmother now, so she's going to be the matriarch of her own corner. And it's like you get to a point and it starts to separate in that way. So right now, my mom being the matriarch, we had 10 people. 10 people.
Yeah, it's it's always been strange for me because my family's very close, like very, very, very close, and like very welcoming of people. So most of my family all gather at my grandparents' house. But as certain, like, when I was married or when I was in long-term relationships or whatnot, you divide your time. Like, I can come to Thanksgiving, but I can only be there for like an hour and a half.
Yeah. And
my family would get really perturbed. Like, just even when we have regular family dinners from time to time, they're like, "Oh, where's Kayla?" I'm like, "Oh, she's doing other things."
Like your birthday.
Yeah. Like my birthday? When was my birthday? Oh, yes. Yes, like my birthday.
Kayla was tattooing.
That's right. Like, people have other lives and they do other things. And
they do.
And it's just fascinating. Like, most of our time is taken, and this, I guess, sort of transitions nicely, but most of our time is taken up by doing this. or our day jobs or whatever limited time we have for personal relationships.
What's funny about that is that I was scheduled to work on Thanksgiving, and I didn't.
Yeah.
Do you know about this?
Sort of. I mean,
Have we talked about this?
sort of.
So yeah, I just under a particular set of circumstances, I ended up not working on Thanksgiving, and so I ended up getting to have Thanksgiving, which is interesting. I can't go into it, unfortunately.
Right.
But that was kind of interesting Thanksgiving all around.
Yeah.
We're kind of concerned right now, at least with my family. My family is so big now. This is not only does it get bigger and bigger every year with the addition of new great grandchildren. My grandfather's been taken ill this year,
Right.
so this is going to be the first time that we don't have Christmas at my grandparents' house. So we have no idea what we're doing anymore as a family.
Right.
So yeah, talking about getting older. My birthday is also in 2 days, or when this episode comes out, my birthday will be tomorrow, the Tuesday. But yeah, times are moving and a shaking. I feel like that's a song somewhere. Anyway,
What was it? The Punisher theme song?
yeah.
Well, something interesting happened this week, and I want your take on it. This past week,
Black Friday.
Black Friday. We'll get into that. Pump the brakes.
It's the next day. Pump the brakes.
Went off the grid.
No, you didn't.
Put my phone away.
No, you didn't.
I wasn't well, maybe not necessarily specifically to you. We talked throughout the week, but we're not like constant conversation. Hey, why don't you stop spinning that pencil? What are you doing over there with that thing?
That's the first time I've heard it.
It's happened twice. It's making a squeaky noise. What are you, Indy? You got a squeaky toy? There's one right there.
Comment below if you could hear that.
Yeah, we're not in constant conversation throughout the week, but I mean, like I literally set my phone in my office and just did other shit throughout the entire day. I think there was one, I think it was my mom. I forgot to respond to her in like 2 days, even though she has a broken arm right now. It was just strange. It was interesting. We didn't do after Schmoe, and we could have, which we'll talk about. Typically, anytime I have a week that's completely thrown off, it stresses me out. Like this week, I didn't have to work on Thursday or Friday, and Wednesday was my Friday, and Kayla was off for like 5 days straight, which is something that doesn't happen that often. So usually when that happens, already my schedule not being the same, which you don't really share in that because your schedule changes. Am I right about that? It changes.
I always close, but my days off are always different.
Right. So for me, that's not the case. I have the same schedule every single week. So that free time stresses me out because I think, okay, I need to be productive as possible, but where I'm not on a routine, I'm always struggling to figure out what needs to get done. So instead of being stressed out about that and having anxiety about that, I just was like, I'm just not going to do anything and just do whatever I want, which is, I know that seems strange to say, but like if I felt like, I feel like making music, I feel like designing, I just did that. And it's that simple.
Why is that strange to say? It's a totally normal thing. I feel like I do that at least once a week. Just like, yeah, I'm going to take this time and actually just relax.
But I don't, that's what I'm saying. I don't do that.
So you're saying it's strange for you?
It's strange for me. It's strange to say that like that's a luxury, but it is. Like for instance, I picked back up on this yesterday afternoon. So when we were finished with late Thanksgiving, like Thanksgiving at Kayla's parents' house on Friday, I came home, decided I was going to be productive, made an entire to-do list of like 6 things, and I ended up only getting one of those things done. And typically how it goes is I will say, oh man, I feel like making music right now. I feel like designing, but I need to make this design for Sight and Sound, or I need to write this thing for More Than Music, or I need to film this video. There's just always other shit going on to sort of take my time away.
I get that.
from relaxing.
So how do you feel on the other side of it now?
It was nice.
You have a good time?
It was nice to get those things done, but now obviously all I'm thinking about is all the shit that I could have done. Like before you came over here, I was working on more of the music, which is just going
is it still the Converge app?
Yes, I'm trying to finish it. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be fantastic when it's released, but what a terrible, terrible, terrible first endeavor to sort of do this like, hey, Sight and Sound's going to do this new thing, and it's going to be so fucking hard
When
to
did
do.
you start that episode?
When I start, I've completed 1 3/4 episode of what was going to be an 8-episode season. It's now been narrowed down to 4. It's only going to be 4 episodes.
I feel
this
like
season.
you started that months ago, like beginning of the summer.
Yeah, probably the summer. That's right.
My word.
And it's a mix.
nuts.
It's a mixture of things. It's a mixture of I write out things for it to sort of. I have editing as a whole thing, and then recording it is kind of a bitch, like because I have to do these takes, like doing like voiceover type of shit, and I don't know, it just gets wacky. It's just a lot.
Yeah.
The new things that I'm gonna end up doing after this that I'm gonna plan is going to be so much easier.
Well, we had that one idea that we took back from our friend too that we can talk about too.
That I've been thinking about that a lot.
I've also been trying to figure out how I'm going to center content.
Oh, that wasn't what I was thinking of. I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the game show or whatever.
Yes, I was thinking about something else.
Yeah, I'm also trying to figure out how to center content around the top 50 list, and I'll talk about that a little bit later and kind of give everyone a heads up as to what's going on. Because I think that there is some confusion. That might be my fault, but I don't know. We'll talk about it.
Let's talk about it now. Because
you want to talk about the top 50 list now?
I want to talk about the top 50, but also sort of what that represents, at least to me.
I would like your take on it.
Because I think Sight and Sound as it is right now, this is like hashtag transparency talk. Sight and Sound as it is right now is it happens very effortlessly. We can just do whatever we need to do. And what this whole year has been, it's clockwork. I'm really interested in doing just some new things, not necessarily like, okay, every week we're going to start doing this. It's not necessarily that, but just more interesting shit.
Yeah.
Like a top 50 list. I just put out that thing about the pop culture crown, which is something that you and I have talked about a lot, but I think now that it's starting to come up, I'm actually getting really excited about just having a retrospective episode.
Right. I think there's a couple of things that we can unpack here. Oh, by the way, to finish up your little vacation, I did want to just make sure people understood that Jay had that whole thing, but from my perspective, nothing at all had changed.
Right. It wasn't necessarily.
You were still in a group text that we're a part of, and you and I had a back and forth, and I saw you post in the Facebook group, and I couldn't tell that you were on hiatus. You told me, and I was just like, what?
Yeah, it was more geared towards other people in my life, too. Like Michael. Michael tried to text me 6 times about something, and I
feel like you're on mental hiatus for Michael a lot.
No, not really. I mean, I've been pretty down and deep in the Galaxy world. You just probably haven't seen it.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah. Just put out a John Mayer review months later after the album came out.
So anyway, if you guys didn't know, we are currently working on, and when I say we, I mean you guys. It's a fan collective. We're currently in the middle.
Not me at all. Barely. I think I voted on.
I've seen you vote. We are currently working towards a top 50 superhero movie ranking, a top 50 superhero movie list for Sight and Sound, and this was in response to the fact that Collider Video is in the process of revealing their list. I think today 38 came out. Maybe it's more than that. But they're still in the 30s. They're not even halfway, is my point. They're doing one video a day. But The Ringer also came out with an entire list, and it was more of a response to The Ringer because Jay and I have talked about The Watch, one of their podcasts, Andrew Greenwald, Chris Ryan, and we've talked about how pretentious some of their takes are. And I was really interested to see that group come up with a superhero movie list because I thought that they would think outside the box. Because even I am not interested in doing a list that automatically just puts The Dark Knight at number 1.
Right.
Like, I want it to look different, but at the same time, unlike The Ringer, unlike Collider, I actually want it to represent the film fandom. Because I don't think that list does. I don't think anybody in the film community agrees with that. And even with like the Collider has been transparent. Collider has been transparent with their formula. With like, you know, if it was split like 5 people loved Hellboy and 5 people hated Hellboy, then that means that the movie is number 25.
Right.
Like, because when you watch those videos,
it's still inclusive. It's still not representative of the greater community.
But it's just how they formulated it. It's like I don't get that. But the point being, when you watch those videos, half of the panelists, and I'm not saying that this isn't interesting. I'm saying that this isn't what I want to do with my list. Half of those people, when they're talking about a movie, don't even like the spot that it's in, don't even like the movie, period. So it's like, if half of your employees don't even like the movie, why is it number 30 on your list?
Yeah, I think
that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I think a lot of people, let me think about the best way to phrase this. I think not everybody on camera is representative of their entire, you know, and that's something that I think Christian's talked about in the carpool stuff, like people on the Collider.com side of things, you know, they're involved with it. I'm sure like Alicia might not, you know, she might have a vote there. Is that her name, Alicia?
Yeah.
Yeah, she might have a vote, but she's not really on camera that much. We just saw Ace for the first time. Like, is Brett involved in this? Like, I mean, that's a valid question.
Right. So this just, I was interested in getting a fan collective. So,
well, here's the one interesting thing about this that I'm fascinated with, and this sort of ties into this idea thing that we might bring out later. If it's down to 2 movies, like let's say it's down to A Dark Knight and something else, and it's a 51-49%, the winner's the winner, motherfuckers. Like, that's, you know, everybody has their opportunity to vote. And that's what's fascinating about it to me.
Right.
That even if, like, I mean, I'm not saying this is a case, but let's just say, like, it came down between Ant-Man and The Dark Knight, and someone had a wild hair up their ass, and it was really close, and was like, Ant-Man's the number 1 movie. It is what it is. You spoke.
Yeah.
As of right now, that's what it is.
And like, I am involved. Like, I've voted a couple of times, but just because I might think that First Class is the better movie, if I'm outvoted, I'm outvoted, and I'm not going to manipulate that, and I'm not going to change it. But anyway, I have been putting up polls on my Twitter. So if you don't follow me at WhatUpSnell. I'm putting up like 3 polls a day. I put up 4 today, just kind of move things along. But I'm putting up a lot of polls, and I'm also putting them in the Sight and Sound Facebook group, which you should definitely be a part of. Link is in the description. I'm also putting them in what was formerly a Collider Movie Talk Facebook group. It's now just called Movie Talk by Movie Fans. I'm also putting it there because there's like 17,000 people in that group. So it's obviously, 10 times, 100 times bigger than ours.
Right.
And again, that's a, huge film community. And I wanted to get as many people involved as possible. And, it only amounts to still a few votes because, but not everybody sees it. And there's a ton of posts already in that Facebook group. But it's still more people.
Right.
And I think it's right now it does represent the fandom. And so anyway, and I'll get to sort of what this means for Sight and Sound in a second, but I did want to just kind of go over what's happening with it because there's kind of a lot of confusion, and I've been known to just kind of start things without fully thinking them. I think this is actually one of those times where I have it pretty well thought out, because the confusion.
Dave, done good.
The confusion, the things that people are asking me about,
confusion
are things that I have addressed. Like today, I posted this post in that Movie Talk group explaining all of this stuff, and the people were asking questions about things I had previously addressed.
Right.
So I'm dealing with a lot of that stuff. But
I usually just ignore it.
yeah. Well, I can't.
Don't ask, just listen.
I can't ignore it. I have to just be like, I said that already, or we'll get to it. Just wait. So anyway, what's happening is the polls are still going on. I've only finalized 6, I think, and there's still plenty more to come. So we're still in the polling segment, and all I'm doing there is asking you to rate what your favorite movie is, and they're usually by trilogy or franchise. So of course there was a poll about what's your favorite Nolan Batman movie, and it's just those 3 choices. And so there's a lot of those. And with those results, I am placing those results into tiers. So right now there will eventually be 4 tiers, because like I put up the original Superman poll, and that's 4 movies. Quest for Peace being the 4th. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So obviously tier 4, none of those movies are going to make it into the list, obviously, because tier 1 and tier 2 are going to make up 50 before we even get to tier 3, tier 4. But yeah, they will be placed in tiers. So The Dark Knight is obviously going to be in tier 1. Iron Man is in tier 1 already. Iron Man 2 is in tier 3 because it was 3rd on that poll. And I'm going to split it up, and it's mainly serving as a visual aid, these tiers, just so we can have something to look at and start to, again, identify where these movies are actually ranked. And I think the tiers will help, because when you see Captain America, the First Avenger, is in tier 3, but the 2005 Fantastic Four is in tier 2, we know that those will be switched. So I'm slowly but surely getting it to where we're putting things in place.
You've confused me, but that's fine.
How have I confused you?
I don't know. There's a lot of explaining, and I was just like, I don't know where things are going. I'll have to look at the tiers myself. Tier
3 is where every 3rd place goes in the poll.
Right.
Anytime something loses in a poll, it goes in the bottom tier. Anytime something wins, like an Iron Man, it goes in tier 1. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But like today, I put up a Fantastic Four poll. All 3 are terrible movies, and Fantastic Four, the 2005 movie, is going to be in tier 2. I already know, because it's going to be the second best of all the Fantastic Four shit movies. Which means something like Captain America: First Avenger, even though it's the 3rd Captain America film,
right? I got it. Yeah,
people are going to still care more about that film than Fantastic Four 2005. So we're going to start to see those things. Like, people are going to pick out, I really care about this being in another tier, and we can start to change and really understand where we put these films. And maybe something like Captain America will show up in tier 3, and most people will be like, you know what? I actually think that might belong there. I don't know if it has or I don't know if it deserves to be on the list at all. So I think that will help people identify how they really feel about these films.
I think, just me personally, as somebody who is a fan of you talking about movies and whatnot, I know we have a lot of people here that are fans of you talking about movies as well. I think you should do some fucking recaps or explorations of the results, things you find fascinating, either via video form or on a movie's episode. I think that's, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Make videos
like a rundown of the the results.
Some of the results have been really interesting. Like it's funny how like the 3 Fantastic Four movies, that's like the tightest race of any poll that I've put up. And something like the Logan trilogy is the most unanimous. I think like 94%, maybe even higher, 96% knew that Logan was the best Wolverine movie. So it's kind of fun to see that kind of stuff. I think sort of the road to the top 50 series would work.
I think it's, especially because it's so spread out everywhere, there's going to be people that aren't following certain like, I haven't seen anything on your Twitter. I haven't seen any, not because I'm just like, well, I didn't know it was there. I just haven't really been paying attention to the Twitter side of things or this movie talk thing as well. I just think it's interesting that you could tell the story, use it to promote the excitement for it and whatnot.
And that was another thing that I thought about, and we can start to transition. Anyway,
bringing it full circle here.
After things are placed into tiers, we will start to shuffle. There will be a shuffling round where we can start to arrange and go back and forth, and so we will figure out a way to do that. And then there will be a last call for films that I might have forgotten, like William Bibbiani mentioned to me today that I forgot Roger Corman's Fantastic Four. So Last Call will be an opportunity where we can factor in some forgotten movies like The Rocketeer or something like that, just as an example. So, and then after that, we will start to actually rank the movies. And I actually think one of the easiest ways, and maybe I can get your take on this real quick, or somebody can tell me in the YouTube comment section, but because there are so many Marvel movies, because there's like 20 already, I think if we started there and ranked the Marvel movies, that way we had those set in stone, and then all of the other movies could fill in the gaps.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just think, I mean, Marvel movies could arguably make up half the list itself, even though there are, something like Thor: The Dark World, I don't think has any business being on the list. But anyway, I just think that's interesting. But anyway, there's a lot more to come. It's not too late to get involved. Find me in those places. You can make sure your voice is heard, and we will make this list together. And I'm also going to start up our Medium. We have a Medium page. We just never used it. That's where the full list will go, but I might do some kind of diary stuff. What's so funny?
Just thinking about the comment that was made. You know what? I should transcribe your music thoughts on our Medium page. Yeah. Whatever. As long as I don't have to do anything, sounds great to me. You know who would be great at that? Luke. Luke would be great at transcribing things because he always gets on me. It's either you or him. He's just this rock star when it comes to English, the English language, in terms of, hey, you should put this comma here. You misspelled this. We know, okay?
Are you talking to me or Luke?
Luke. You could transcribe things for us.
So anyway, to go finally transition.
We're just joking, though.
To finally transition into what you want to talk about, implementing that movie talk group was also sort of a promotional idea I had to get more people involved in Sight and Sound in general. But this kind of idea is sort of unprecedented with Sight and Sound. I think we have been talking a lot about how we can create podcasts, create video ideas for the channel. But now we're doing these sort of extracurriculars and actually doing some things outside the box. We have this, and this was just a happy accident too, and sort of how this developed and how we were going to do this for Sight and Sound. But we were also reminded of our secret Harry Potter secret as well, which we have only me, you, and Kristen Smith. What's going on there? And that probably won't take place until the top 50 list is out of the way. That way we only focus on one thing. But we've got all these interesting things in the pipeline that I think will really help Sight and Sound in its second year. Sort of Sight and Sound 2.0.
That's a point of all this really is, and this is something that sort of we've been batting around for a while. It didn't really, some of these ideas are coming up now, but we've been talking about what year 2 could look like for a while. And I think that's it. I think that's just new and fun things. It does Sight and Sound as you know it right now. Well, that's what it is. That's what Sight and Sound is. But it's about doing new and interesting things, I think, in the future. And also just like I've talked about this a little bit. I think I talked about it last week or the last time we did weekly, which seems for some reason like it was like a while ago. Sorry.
Last week.
Week's been crazy.
You were on hiatus.
Yeah, just doing like, I like the reviews and all that stuff, but just doing little discussions. I did a retro review about Glassjaw, and it's just nice. Like somebody came and I don't know if you saw the comment today. They were like, "Hey, this is nice. I'm going to post it on this Glassjaw fan page." It's like, yeah, it's not going to get thousands and thousands of videos and whatnot, but if it can appeal to a niche or something, and I can just enjoy doing it, that's really what I care about. Obviously, I want people to come regardless, and there's still going to be reviews there, but just new and interesting stuff, I think is
because cool. Like I put out those Justice League reviews. I put out 2 videos of Justice League. They were pitiful.
I don't understand sometimes why certain things work and why certain things don't. Like, just to give you another example, rap and hip hop and talking about Frank Ocean and stuff are just the most popular forms of music. but they do not perform well on our YouTube channel.
Right.
And you could extrapolate on that in a bunch of different ways. It could be down to our YouTube audience. I'm always fascinated by the subscriber count that people have when only a fraction of those people actually take in the content. And it's very interesting to me because we cast such a wide net. There could just be a plethora of people that don't give a shit about music. There could be a plethora of people that don't give a shit about movies.
Right.
And then you break it down into specific genres and this and that. So it's always fascinating. And I'm very aware. Earlier this year, I posted, and it was mainly to the Facebook group, but I think it's a nice sample size of our diehard listenership, like what genre of music people enjoy. And it was rock music there. So I sort of not really shifted gears into what I was reviewing, but just tried to experiment and got a ton of people in, hardcore, post-hardcore, metalcore, even though I made that August Burns Red video and people hated me. But I mean, it's just fascinating sort of looking at all that stuff. But,
Right.
I don't know, man. It's cool. And I think next year is going to be fun. More than music. I'm just going to be glad when it's over. Because I'm fucking sick of it already.
I mentioned
Proud of it though. Sorry.
I mentioned last night. I was thinking a lot last night. I was thinking about how our
Meaning of life.
year was really top heavy as far as like you know how I get impatient. I start to get worried and confused.
I've known you for a while. Yeah.
And at the beginning of the year, I felt like I didn't have anything to worry about because I thought we were on such a upward trajectory. And it's funny because something like our YouTube subscriber count goes up or our plays go up. But for some reason, that number never does it because I'm thinking about like Let's Talk Legion, or I'm thinking about TV time or relations in general and things like that. And so towards the end of the year here, I felt like I've been more lost than ever before when it comes to Sight and Sound.
Yeah, isn't
that goofy?
You have I think goofy is an interesting word because you have this goofy thing about these milestone things that don't have to do with success at all. Like you're like, hey, TV time is a great deal. It's basically done very little for us in comparison to something that you've done for a long time, like Schmoes, that's done leaps and bounds, but because it's so normal, I think to you, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but it's easy to take for granted, I think, sometimes. But just pulling up our stats here just to look at something, because this always makes me happy. There is just a tremendous jump right here.
What month is that?
That is...
From what month to what month?
This is February of 2017. Went crazy. It was literally like a 2,000 jump, a 2,000 number jump.
Last month was our second highest month.
Yes.
Yeah. But
doesn't feel that way.
But I don't feel that right now. Like I see it now and that's fantastic, but internally I'm ripping myself to shreds.
Yeah, you should just not pay attention to you. But you should not pay attention to you.
Oh, I know.
Constant upward trajectory.
Secretly, like this top 50 thing has just been a shitload of fun, and I think a lot of people are enjoying this. I think a lot of people have been into keeping track of it.
Right.
I mean, I get a lot of responses. Not only do I get a lot of answers in the polls, pretty much every finalized poll has over at least 100 votes on Twitter alone. But people are responding to it, and I think people are really jazzed about it all. So I should be taking that into consideration instead of some of the other fluff.
Well, and I don't know if this is only the first year that we've really shared something like Sight and Sound together, but one thing that I've noticed for everything that I've always been involved with, starting after Thanksgiving is what I call the dark period for new media.
Yeah.
Podcast numbers, YouTube numbers, and engagement in general sort of dips around this time. Not dips like drastically. It's just it's a tough period because people are with family, they're traveling a lot.
About to go on vacation.
And then you take into consideration, which is part of the reason why we're sort of skipping out on weekly this week. Nobody really likes doing anything at the end of the year. For music specifically, you might have one I think a couple years ago, Adele put out an album in December. Childish Gambino, Run the Jewels. You got this Glassjaw thing coming out. But all in all, nobody really likes putting out anything right now because we're outside of Grammy contention for the year of 2017. People are already doing their album of the year lists. And I think for movies is interesting right now too, because a lot of people aren't going to be making, at least regular everyday fans are going to be making their lists until 2018 because they want to see limited releases. And then TV is just winding down.
Yeah.
It's just a tough time.
I don't know what else is left with TV this year.
Yeah, I don't either.
Nothing.
Runaways.
Other than finishing Robot.
And Runaways. Can we talk about Runaways just for a second?
We will.
Okay, we're gonna get into that.
Yeah, we will.
How's your Black Friday? We never got there.
I was gonna say there's like a million things we're still on right now.
Did you buy anything on Black Friday?
Yeah.
What'd you buy?
Well, I went out Thursday night.
Actually, I know you did.
I went out late Thursday night with my sister, and we just went to a couple places in town. It wasn't that big of a deal.
What time is this?
Midnight, 1 a.m., something like that.
It used to be a thing with me for like 5 years straight. I used to go and wait in line at like Best Buy and Circuit City and stuff.
For an iPod? Those days?
No, it was movies was big, DVDs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Some video game stuff, TVs, monitors.
I had a nice haul when it came to Blu-rays last year, but as time has gone on, I buy less and less Blu-rays, so I didn't really care about that. I mean, if I had gone there and seen something, I would have gotten it. But when it came to media, I got Get Out on Blu-ray. It was like $4. So I bought Get Out, and then I bought a Red Dead Redemption collection, and that was only like $12 for Xbox One. It was the original Red Dead Redemption and then some zombie add-on. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I got that, and then I got this really nice hoodie from Dick's. Nice Adidas hoodie.
Yeah. Have you seen the Stranger Things Adidas hoodie? It's been floating around.
Yes, I have. With the Demogorgon is
Isn't that cool?
The leaf. Yeah.
It's so dope. I want that really bad.
It also kind of looks like marijuana.
It does. It's true. What
did you do?
I was in the market for a half price Swedish denim shirt, custom made. Didn't end up pulling the trigger.
Online?
Online.
Okay.
Because it's in Sweden. It's made in Sweden.
Well, I didn't know if it was like an H&M or something. I didn't know if you went to the mall.
No, these jeans, custom made in Sweden. Specifically for me, Papa J. My haul was full of sadness because
haul is an H-A-U-L?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
So last year on Black Friday, Frank Ocean released his album Blonde on vinyl.
Yeah.
For like $40 or $50 just that day. You know how much that's going for now?
$300.
$400 on eBay. I could have swore I bought it. I didn't buy it. I thought I did, though.
I thought you did too.
I did too.
I feel like I
posted on
it.
Instagram that I bought it. Didn't buy it.
Really?
Yeah.
Then what's that behind you? I made you look. He looked.
So this year, sitting around thinking, that was interesting last year. Let's see if this is like 12/15. Like, I'm going to see if he released anything this year. Go to his website. Strangely enough, but surely enough, he did.
Really?
He released a hoodie.
Okay.
The hoodie does not say Frank Ocean on it. It says WorldNet on it.
I saw that, yeah.
WorldNet is an international shipping company. And he wore this hoodie at ComplexCon recently. The hoodie was $100. I thought, that's strange. That's odd. Anything that he's like the J.J. Abrams circa Cloverfield era of music. Like,
this was his S trailer. His trailer for S.
I mean, just does the weirdest shit. And everything he does has a reason behind it and has a purpose. So I'm sitting there laughing about it. Kayla comes in. Well, you need to buy this hoodie. I'm thinking, you're fucking crazy. There's no way I'm buying a $100 hoodie that doesn't even say Frank Ocean on it. She says, Jay, think about the resale value of this hoodie.
Yeah.
and think about, because do you agree? $100 is a lot for a hoodie.
Yes.
I mean, it's a normal hoodie. It's the same thing you're wearing right now.
I mean, hoodies are like $55, and I think that's expensive.
Yes, I agree. 100%.
$100.
Depending on what you buy, that hoodie right there, Gildan from Amazon, blank Gildan hoodie, like $15.
That's good.
Very good. This hoodie, this Glassjaw hoodie, $45.
But the Adidas
not
hoodie, had I not bought it on Black Friday, would have been like $65.
Anyways, we both agreed that surely there's something more to this. There got to be something more to this hoodie.
Life.
The fact that it doesn't have Frank Ocean on it. The fact that, so I bought it. Even on Black Friday, it was already being resold for $300 on eBay. So that makes me very happy.
Yeah.
Very, very happy. Especially, I go to the Frank Ocean Reddit. Oh, it's going crazy. They're talking about theories. The tag on it, it says new 17, and people are theorizing what that means. People are wondering, and there's many things about it. Channel Orange, 17 tracks. Blonde, 17 tracks. He had a image he posted on his website of a library card with dates on it. All the dates that he promised Blonde was coming out. Guess how many dates were on it?
17.
That's right. What does it mean, Brian Snelling? Also, my theory, I think it's either we're getting his album Endless on vinyl, which to this day has never been released in a physical form, or he also had Spike Lee film 3 of his concerts, and I think that those could be coming out in a DVD, which would be really cool.
I'm so mad at you.
Did you know Brad Pitt was going to be in this concert footage? Did you know that?
No.
So I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but he was performing in California, and during one of his songs on the Jumbotron, it just flashed backstage to Brad Pitt talking on a cell phone while he was at the concert.
What a weird guy.
I'm sorry, what were you about to say? You're mad at me?
I'm so mad at you.
You wanted to be on this resale game.
For not suggesting I buy this hoodie.
Yeah, I should have.
But it could have also just, blown up right in my face like my Adidas and MDs did.
How do you feel about this hoodie showing up and it literally just being this hoodie?
Well,
there being no resale value.
I appreciate the spirit of everything you just said, regardless of the resale value. The fact that you connected this to J.J. Abrams, I'm on board.
Yeah.
I think that this is very cool. And if I enjoyed music, I think I would really, I would really take to this. I do really think it's cool. But right now I'm just thinking about how much money I could have made had I resold it. Yeah. No, it's very cool and it's very fun. I think it's a new 17 songs.
You think so? That would be amazing.
At the end of 2017.
Here's the only thing that is strange about that. So while we're on Frank Ocean, because I'd love to spend as much time as possible. The weird thing about him is that he just said that 2018 was going to be he said if you like 2017, 2018 is going to be a lot of fun as a Frank Ocean fan. But there's also been a lot of speculation that like he released these 4 singles this year, standalone singles, and people were like, are these new or are these like leftover tracks from these 2 albums he put out last year? These could just be more B-sides. I have no idea. Yeah. I would love for it to be endless. I've only listened to that album once because it's the only way you can listen to it is as a 1-hour video on Apple Music.
Really?
Yeah. So I would love for that to be the case. But I'll just ask you while we're just on this with music. Do you appreciate stuff like this? Like, obviously maybe not as like this diehard music fan, but we talk all the time about artists should be more prolific and put out music more regularly, but there is something to be said about artists that just don't put out music a lot, but still engage with their fans like this.
I was always really just satisfied with a simple studio update.
Yeah.
Like, just anything a band could do in that sense always excited me. Whether it be release a DVD, a behind-the-scenes DVD. Right. Under Oath was really good about that. They have several behind-the-scenes DVDs, live DVDs. Seosin has one of my favorite behind-the-scenes. That was always enough for me.
Right. The Chariot was big about that too.
Yeah. Every Time I Die.
Yep.
That's where we got Shinfo.
They got, I think their DVD went like gold.
Really?
Yeah.
That's where we got Shinfo. Was it Kevin Marks who hates when I say that? Or maybe Lenardic. But that was always enough for me. So, but when you talk about Frank Ocean doing this kind of thing, I don't know. Maybe I would get irritated a little bit if it was like just a bunch of teases, but not really. Because I'm thinking about how impatient I am with this Plotting You album. I can't imagine if they were just like teasing me a little bit more and not giving me things, and I don't know.
Well,
it's interesting.
I mean, you have to be a certain level. Like you look at somebody like, I mean, obviously not favorable in the news, but a band like Brand New out for 5 years, so much so that their album previous was outside of this whole YouTube review podcast landscape. And then, oh, guess what? We have a #1 album.
Right.
And then like an artist like Frank Ocean that just doesn't put out music often. And then, I mean, we were going to talk, if we did weekly this week, we're going to talk about Glassjaw, but they're putting out their first album in 15 years. And people might be saying, oh, is this their comeback or is it a reunion? No, they've been touring and active like any normal band would be. They just have been touring on the same album for 15 years.
I don't understand that.
Isn't that fucking crazy? And they have a diehard fan base.
As time goes on, shouldn't the crowds just get smaller and smaller as more and more people either forget or get tired of that album?
I mean,
blows my mind. I don't care what band you are.
I mean, they went on tour with Deftones. Like, and Deftones are a massive band. Like, I mean, it's crazy. It's baffling. But they are also a band like Frank Ocean that stays very engaged with their fans. They tease them. Like, for instance, I'm wearing a hoodie right now that says Coloring Book. I say album. They why are you laughing? Why are you laughing right now?
Glassjaw aside, it's hilarious to have a hoodie that just says Coloring Book.
Well, yeah, I'm about to explain it. So I say that they haven't had an album in 15 years, and that's true, but they have released 2 EPs. One is on Spotify. The other one is not, because the way they released it, just at a random show one day, they just started handing out their new EP for free, and it's called Coloring Book. And it's just like, I mean, the band, it's crazy to me. It's crazy. So, no, it's a big news story that they are putting out an album. Very fascinated by the result. If they had a #1 album by this, it would not surprise me, just because of the type of band they are and the diehard fan base that they have. That reminds me a lot of Brand New and how their album caught everybody off guard by being a #1 album. But I don't think it will be a #1 album.
I don't like that song.
You don't care for it?
I don't think it's a good song at all.
Okay. Why is that?
It's indiscernible.
Okay.
It's just some stuff. I don't think the vocals sound good.
Isn't the Chariot just some stuff?
It makes more sense to me, and I can at least somewhat enjoy it and have a little bit more fun with it. So I'm not arguing against it,
right?
But taste wise,
right?
I don't know what I don't know what this was.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those interesting things. To me, it's fascinating to see how this holds up with stuff. We had at the drive-in come out with an album. Their first one in a really, really long time, about the same amount of time. And it's the thing that was upsetting about that is that they were older guys trying to recapture that same vibe and that same sound. Yeah. Listen, I'm not gonna lie. The song is nothing special in regards to what I've heard from the band before. I like it. It makes me happy because it still does have a lot of that visceral. The best thing about Glassjaw is that for every single band that exists that you and I know of, and we praise their ability to combine abrasiveness with the melodic nature, you could essentially like narrow down Glassjaw legitimately perfecting that for every band to copy for years to come. There's a reason why that band, in the same summer their album came out, did spots on Ozfest next to gigantic nu metal bands, but also on Warped Tour next to punk rock bands. And I said it in my retro review, I had never thought about it before, but not only does this band sound just like The Used, essentially, of that time, they also are times in that album where they remind me of Incubus. And it's just like so many bands.
What is that?
So many bands just like essentially copied that model, but made it their own, made it more of a crossover appeal. So I'm fascinated by it, but it would not surprise me if you came to me and was like, how the fuck did this album get number one? But I personally don't think it will. And the only reason I don't think it will, very strange. I don't know why they did this. They have a record label for this. They don't need a record label for this. And they're also promoting it like they would. It comes out at the end of this week. December 1st is when it comes out.
Okay.
That just happened out of nowhere. The brand new album, the way it was released, played into why so many people bought it when they did. They post on Instagram pre-orders for a new album. Boom.
Yeah.
People bought the shit out of it. People are going to wait for this to come out on Spotify.
People still think I'm playing when it comes to considering Harry Styles as my number one album of the year. I just tweeted it again like 2 nights ago, and people think I'm playing. But I listened to that album again yesterday, and it's still good to me. I don't know.
You like that?
It's up there.
Well, we're going to talk. I want to use our.
Are you going to look at monthly listeners?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm going to show you my album of the year list, and I want you to see where it is on my album of the year list and see. I want your reaction so far.
I'm taking the computer. All right, let me find it. And
for me, are you happy with its position?
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, I get that. I see a lot of other things like you felt. I'm waiting.
There's something on that list.
I'm waiting
that
until
I am
December.
Pissed at you. For
I'm
not
waiting
listening
until
to.
December 31st to listen to Northlane. I'm waiting until the very last possible moment to listen to this Northlane album. You have been trying to get me to do this all year.
It's the basement of 2017.
Yeah, exactly. Basement being a band that I totally ignore. I see Logic on here. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm not revealing anything.
No, just saying some names.
Just saying some stuff.
I've been moving some things around.
I'm shocked that My Ticket Home was a band that was just sort of around when
I forgot to do my review
when quote unquote Screamo was getting tired, and I was just like, oh, another one of those bands. So I'm shocked. I didn't even realize they were still a thing. I'm shocked that they're still in your consciousness.
It's a special album.
They're somewhere on this list.
You would love that album.
I'm sure I would.
It has nothing to do with metalcore screamo anymore.
Oh, okay.
It reminds me more of the clips of New Brave the Storm.
Purely because of Sight and Sound's existence, I am much more familiar with all of this stuff, and that's really fascinating. Whereas, like last year, if I heard your top 30 album, I wouldn't know what the fuck any of this shit is. There's only a couple things. There are 3 things that I've noticed. I've never heard you even say the words. I've never in my life. I haven't seen you create content about this stuff. I've never heard you bring it up to me. So those things are kind of shocking, but it's also in true Jaye Williams fashion because there are times when I hang out with Jay and Jay will bring up a band as if everyone on earth knows who they are.
That's right.
Like, hey, by the way, this have you heard the latest Bedknob and Broomstick album? And I'm like, oh, you just think I know what that means?
Let me ask
Please explain.
Let me ask you this. For people that pay attention to Sight and Sound music, or even just casually, and that think to themselves like, "Oh, they talk about the same bands all the time. I'm not gonna get anything out of this album of the year list." Do you think people are going to be interested in this list?
Well, it's like I just said. Look, I'm not the biggest music fan,
right,
but because I've been sort of involved in. Well, of course I'm involved in Sight and Sound, but because this podcast makes me more involved and it helps me keep my ear to the ground, I'm much more interested and curious with this list than I am, say, last year's.
Yeah.
When Sight and Sound was only a thing for 2 months by the time you came up with that. So
curious like a cat.
Just by default, I find that way more interesting this year to keep up with. I noticed you still have 3 more spots to fill. 4 more. 3 more. You had 27.
Yeah, I mentioned it on the music episode this week. There's a potential. Listen, if I'm just like I'm gonna have to fill this out for 30, I'll cut it down to 25. I'm not gonna put something on a top 30 list just to get to the number.
Yeah,
I'll cut it down to 25. So I've already had to kill a few things off the list. Just be like, nope, not good. There's one album in particular. Listen, I'll just say it now because it's gonna be on the list. But the brand new album.
I was gonna say, what are you gonna do with it?
The brand new album is very interesting because my list in particular is a list that has it's not a critical list. It's not something that I think every single person should think this is the best album of the year. It's my personal enjoyment. But the critical nature of things sort of lifts things a little bit. It's like if there's two albums battling it out, I'll think about the critical nature, but also how much I listen to it. Listen, after that shit happened with Jesse Lacey, I haven't listened to Brand New once. They come up on Spotify sometimes. I skip it.
I have.
And it's hard for me to say. I mean, listen, Brand New, their album Daisy is a direct influence on Separator stuff. There's just, I mean, they really influence how Carl writes music, and that they influence how I write vocals. But it's, you know what I've done? I've said this band can be replaced. The new Citizen album is fucking great, and it's made me spend more time with that. It scratched that itch. I think it's a better album. Sorry. It's a better album. Brand New, or not Brand New, I'm sorry, Balance and Composure also scratches that itch for me. They're replaceable, Brand New fans. Ditch those douchebags. Fuck them.
Well, not all of them.
Not
only
all of
one.
them. Not all of them. But that's what that jackass did to those people. That's what sucks.
Right.
But it's going to be interesting to talk about because I'm not just going to act like it didn't come out,
Yeah.
or that I didn't have an opinion on it. But
right.
I'm anxious for your movie list. But let's talk about this pop culture crown thing for a second.
Well, the one thing I do want to say, because you did bring up movies briefly, and so you were talking about the lull in music. Right now, I feel like
it's weird because Star Wars is fucking looming.
We're 20 days out.
It's crazy.
I just beat Battlefront. Like I'm really, whereas like last year my Battlefront was the Catalyst novel leading up to Rogue One. It was sort of what I used to sort of build myself up into Star Wars season. I just beat Battlefront. I am just in the mood.
You're in the mood
for Star Wars.
Would you say that Battlefront is a mood game? Like mood album.
So anyway, I've been thinking nonstop about Star Wars ever since playing the game and what it means for The Last Jedi, thinking more and more about the trilogy, Rian Johnson.
I think you should.
All of that
by
is
the way,
coming.
You should tell Kayla about Battlefront.
I will.
You should.
Is she going to be awake when we're done?
Yeah, she's been reading a book like a fucking maniac for the last week.
So this week, maybe even last week, but right now in 2017, I feel like this is the latest that I've ever found out / known about all of the notable indie films for this year. Usually it's end of summer, beginning of September, where I start to hear about all the buzz.
I have a take on this.
It wasn't until this week where I heard of the Armie Hammer movie Call Me by Your Name. Let's see what the 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. Just found out about. I remember seeing a trailer a long time ago, but
somebody posted about it. I feel like in the Facebook group.
I saw a trailer forever ago. I can't remember what movie it was in front of, but maybe it was before Wind River. I saw that trailer. And then there was another one that just kind of popped up. Oh, Lady Bird with what? Saoirse Ronan, I think.
I have no idea.
Phantom Thread.
What's the one that the Schmoes just put their review up of? It starts with a W. Is it Wonder? Not
Wonder.
Is that one?
Well, that doesn't count because that's a wide release theatrical run. That's still, but I don't remember it ever being this late. Where these movies started popping up for me. Like I feel like right now, I just by the way, yesterday I just started my movie pass.
Okay.
So I'm waiting on my card, and I'm going to have to fly through these movies to feel comfortable making my end of the year list. And the past 4 years or so that I've been doing this, I've never felt this anxious about it. It's weird.
So we didn't really do. I mean, we talked about it, but we didn't do what we're probably going to be doing for this whole pop culture crown discussion. But I remember last year thinking to myself, and we even had this conversation, like, man, movies this year hasn't been as great. But what I will say, at least from paying closer attention to it towards the end of last year, was that the movies that came out, you had Moonlight, La La Land, all that stuff, sort of lifted it a little bit. I've been waiting, and it has not come, so much so, and I will get into this when we do this podcast, but it's hilarious to think about that arguably two of the best movies that came out this year came out extremely early, and that's Get Out and Logan. And we'll get into it later. But
it's also fascinating how some of my top movies of the year will be superhero movies.
Right.
Whereas I try
stay away.
Not even that. I mean, I'll give a superhero movie credit, or if I do think it's my favorite, then I'll put it as my favorite.
But with your ranking, you're a little bit more honest.
I just want my list to be broad.
Yeah.
I want my list that represent
versatile,
all of cinema,
like my album of the year list,
not just Star Wars and superheroes. But this year, it's going to be very superhero heavy.
Yeah. Well, listen,
I don't know. It's disappointing in that way, though, because I mean, I want my spectacular nows. I want. Right. Where's this year's La La Land? Like, I want to know, because this time last year I went to go see La La Land.
I'm excited to see The Room. Not The Room, The Disaster Artist.
Oh, yeah, me too. That's another one.
I think they're doing, which I meant to tell you, at the Kentucky Theater, they're doing I think it's a double feature of The Room.
Oh, my God.
And then The Disaster Artist right after it.
That's incredible.
We should think about that. Anyways, listen, I was making up that graphic for the Pop Culture Crown thing, and
You've already decided the winner.
No, well, we
have.
Listen, let me just preface this whole discussion by... and I'll explain it on the episode too. When I put this out there, when we talk about this, at least for me specifically, it's not always about quality for me. It's not always about quality of these three sort of pillars of pop culture, because I was sort of the number one spot for me. It's sort of locked in, and I'm not going to make any qualms about it. But the 2 and 3, I was debating in my head very heavily, actually, because I think buzz around things plays into the pop culture crown. The buzz about things, how much time we spend talking about and anticipating certain things, plays heavily into it. When I talk about rappers being on the throne of hip hop, it's not just about how great their album was, or else Kendrick Lamar would be on the throne. Hip hop music has a lot to do with the impact it makes just on culture and society, as much as it does just about crossover appeal. And if, just throwing it out there, if music doesn't have crossover appeal, that's going to knock it down a little bit. I can think there was a million great albums that came out this year, but if nobody gives a fuck, how could I ever give the crown to music? Right. Is what I'm saying.
My response to this, I will actually save for the episode.
Okay, great. And I probably should have done the same, but I do want people to get excited for it. We can't have our awards night on Sight and Sound because we can't do movies like we can with music and television. But, and especially because I don't watch as many movies as you do, and you don't listen as much music as I do, but I want to treat it sort of as our award ceremony. Like,
yeah,
why don't you get dressed up for it?
Okay.
We'll
make it a black tie affair.
Well, I don't know about tie, but I'll break out my fancy jeans,
sparkling grape juice,
and a nice flannel. And maybe I won't wear a hat.
Okay, I'll stop by Kohl's and we'll get this thing going.
There you go. Maybe just wear your NMDs or something. Anyways,
I don't like how I look in them.
Okay. I just want it to be special. I want it to be fun. I want people to debate with themselves. Like, all of our Collider and Schmoes Know fans don't just automatically be like, well, movie. No, really think about it. And challenge yourselves. Like, at the beginning of this year, I made a challenge to myself that I needed to spend more time with rock music.
Yeah.
And I had a great time with rock music this year. And just challenge yourself with TV. I know who's somebody that doesn't watch a lot of TV? Luke doesn't watch a lot of TV. Just watch some TV, man. Come on.
How do you feel about taking a break?
Let's do it.
And when we get back, we'll definitely mention Runaways. I want to talk about After Schmoe.
Let's do it.
Schmoes Know, and then whatever else. And then we'll head out.
All right.
Let's take a break.
I'm going to water Indy's back, see if any hair grows.
Okay, very good.
All right.
There is a ton of content over on the Sight and Sound YouTube page. Obviously, you can listen to us talk via podcast form, but we've got you covered with a ton of other content as well. I'm doing album reviews and music discussion. Ryan is doing movie stuff. We're doing TV stuff. We're doing vlogs. A bunch of shenanigans over on the Sight and Sound YouTube page. All you got to do is go to YouTube, search for Sight and Sound, subscribe to our channel, or you can click in the link in the description box of this podcast and subscribe to us. It's good times. Watch our faces, listen to stuff. YouTube is the place to be.
We just got done talking about some Battlefront stuff, telling Kayla about it. I don't think she was as interested as I thought she'd be. She was when you got to the meat of it.
I really, really want to talk about it, but I don't want to talk about it right here.
Why don't you just do a video about it?
I was going to.
Okay. All right, let's talk about this Runaway show, okay?
How many episodes did you watch?
1.5, and
I watched 2.
Listen, man, this if you would have told me at the beginning of this year, hey, there's going to be this Marvel teen drama, I would have been super uninterested, but this is on the back of a year where I've watched 2 fantastic teen dramas, one being 13 Reasons Why and the other being Friday Night Lights.
Atypical. I think that
atypical as well,
counts.
absolutely. And I think the bar has been set pretty high. First of all, it's just fascinating to me, this whole, like, the fact that Hulu even has a Marvel show is odd, especially because we've got Marvel on Netflix, we've got Marvel on ABC, and we've got another one coming out next year on whatever it's called now, ABC Family, or it's not
Freeform.
Yeah. And so it's just strange, but then we have this Disney streaming service that's being thrown in there. This thing is currently sitting at like a 7 out of 10 on IMDb. And I thought this was just straight up terrible. I was angry. I was frustrated watching this.
What makes you so mad? Because I can, again, with only 2 episodes in, I haven't even finished the 3 that are on right now.
This is what's interesting too about this. So I was thinking back about our Punisher talk on Weekly last week, and how it is interesting that any other show that could have ever come out outside of Netflix, not in this binge sort of mode, like, I was talking about 3 episodes, not maybe I was enjoying it, but I still had some negative things to say, but a lot of other people could have been way farther ahead than me. But so it sort of seems silly to talk about negatives if you haven't finished a show, but we also don't have that luxury with everything else. Most shows give us a pilot and a few episodes to sort of see if we want to spend our time with it and enjoy it. This show is not for me. It's for me, it's way too on the nose teen drama. It's not doing anything interesting.
You want to know another reason why you don't like it?
This is like the OC.
This is Marvel's The Path.
Well, sort of.
Like almost literally. I mean, because you're dealing with the religious cult and
absolutely
some people being freaks. And
I feel you with that. Listen, I've never had to put on my Andy Greenwald hat as much as I'm going to have to talking about the show, because, like, I found nothing interesting about it. Like, I found myself saying this is just some rich kids living in the most uninteresting looking version of LA that I've ever seen in my entire life, and hitting all of these silly tropes about teen dramas that I just don't like and care for.
Did you notice that the showrunner is Joshua Schwartz, the same as the OC?
No, I didn't pay attention to that.
The OC.
I didn't realize that the guy that developed I guess it was the guy that developed the comic book, same guy that did Alias, Jessica Jones and whatnot, and Kayla was the one.
Oh, Brian K. Vaughan. Yeah. Why the Last Man?
Yeah, Kayla was the one that
Saga.
turned me onto that. So it just seems so watered down. It seems so. I like that this show is hitching its cart onto being a diverse show. I think that's really cool. But I think I don't like the word superhero fatigue. But this is just another teen drama that is throwing, hey, guess what? They're superheroes, though, and I'm not buying it.
It's not even that though yet, you know.
Right.
Like the first episode, and I won't give away. Look, we'll just talk about the first episode. I won't even talk about the things that I saw in the second one.
I saw half of the second episode. You came in as I was watching it.
Yeah, only one character has superpowers, and we have no idea why. And I don't even know if that was her discovering it, or if that was her channeling it. Like, it's so vague right now as to why that character is who she is.
It seemed to be sort of like a mutant sort of vibe, like hitting puberty. Yeah.
Yeah. And because she is the youngest one in the group. But as far as I can tell, none of the other people have superpowers yet that I know of.
Right.
And I know that Kevin Marks is going to immediately tell us all about it in our Facebook group. But it's such a weird show in that way. I was expecting teen superheroes. I was expecting something like Chronicle or something like that. Or maybe even something like The Gifted, because that's about people running away from something. And I don't know. It's not at all what I expected. And the whole premise is sort of, from what I can tell, well, I'm not going to give that away either.
But would that be enough? I mean, I don't know if you enjoyed it or not, but would that be enough for you? Even if you were not sold on the first episode, would the aspect of, well, at least they're superheroes, is that enough for you to sell you? Yeah, exactly.
I don't care. This might be based on a comic book, but if that character never had powers, it wouldn't change how I feel about the show.
Right.
I think you dislike it.
Yeah, if you take away the superhero stuff, would you still be locked in?
Like, I'm not going into episode 3 saying to myself, where is this guy's powers? Whatever. They might not be superheroes, so what? I mean, I expected that, but it doesn't matter. There's not a quota of superpowers that I need for this show. I think you dislike it a lot more than I do. I'm fine with it. It's so, I heard a lot of people loving the first pilot coming out of whatever con it aired. I think it was New York Comic Con. They played the premiere, and a lot of people dug it. I mean, I don't hate it or anything, but
I've seen some buzz about it online. I mean, people buzzing about it.
I mean, there's some of that, the freeform cheese or the CW cheese or whatever. There's some of that in there. I think now I know what it is.
Right.
Like, now I know what it is, having seen 2 episodes, and it's either going to end up being a huge disappointment, or I'll just be fine with whatever it ends up becoming. It's whatever. I could also just see this being a forgettable show. Like, at the end of it, I'll be like, okay, there was the Runaways. I'll watch season 2 or whatever. But it's not changing anything. It's not. I don't think it's changing the game. I could see it being forgettable. I could see myself just dropping off halfway through the season and just completely not caring. But as of right now, it's just kind of a whatever show that I might watch if I don't have anything else to watch.
Well, you brought up the Gifted, and I only watched one episode of The Gifted, but I enjoyed that far more than I did this, and it's so interesting, and it's fascinating because we are in this peak Renaissance era of television, even so much so to where the water has lifted all ships, even with teen dramas, which is something that I'm not particularly fond of traditionally. But I've seen how good that can be in this era.
Yeah.
And this is still stuck in just old form of,
it's also like
of that.
I mean, you talked about how many corners of the TV landscape there are superhero shows. I mean,
Yeah.
we might not be coming from the most objective place. Like, it just so happens that the Netflix shows, you can debate their quality, but they're in our wheelhouse as far as things that we like or interested in. But like, this show might serve its purpose for a younger audience. It might
Right. Well, which is why I said it's specifically
So,
not
yeah.
for me. I'm
That's-
not
that's
even
why
getting down on it critically.
That's why I'm just not there with hating it yet. Like,
Yeah.
I like I said, I get it. I think I know what the show is supposed to be now.
Yeah.
Now I have greater context, but I'm not.
I haven't mentioned one thing about the acting. I haven't mentioned one thing about the storyline, anything like that. It's simply just not for me.
But you said it was terrible. You said it was terrible.
It's terrible in the landscape of what we come to know and expect for things. Here's another reason why I think it's borderline terrible and something that I cannot give it a pass for. Again, don't like the term superhero fatigue, but we are ending up in this space now to where we can just say, let's throw a teen drama, let's throw a horror, let's throw a spy movie, let's throw all this stuff all these different genres, and let's tag on superhero to it. I'm getting a little tired of it. I'm getting a little bit sick of it personally. Because it's cheap. It's starting to get cheap. Like, again, this is something I've seen a million times. It just has superhero on it now.
To be fair, I mean, it was, as far as I know, I don't know if popular is the right word, but it's a known book.
Still, I mean,
so I don't think it's fair to just label it as someone's reaching when it's actually just something that existed that might already have a built-in fan base, and that this is something that people were excited to see.
Yeah.
Maybe you're just not happy with the execution. But I mean, I think it's a little unfair to just say that we're reaching, even though that book has been a thing, and Brian K. Vaughan is a well-respected creator.
But it's with anything. It's with any sort of IP that exists. Comic book stuff is very popular. They will sort through every single thing that they possibly can to make some sort of money off of it. And I do understand that it's probably has its beloved following. That's not necessarily what I'm speaking.
And doesn't mean that it can't be good either.
Absolutely. If I'm relating it to something like music, the worst time for any specific music genre is when it becomes a commodity, and when you just have people just, here's a rap band that's a metalcore band now. Here's a pop band that, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you start doing that stuff and you're watering down something that is beloved, it no longer becomes special. You look at it with sports. Something like the UFC used to be special when it was once a month. Now there's so much of it. I'm not saying nobody gives a shit about it, but it becomes watered down.
Right.
It's just, it's something I see happening. One of the reasons why I think we love and I give the MCU so much of a pass is because what they're doing is a huge undertaking, right? I mean, that's to connect all these movies, all this stuff. And what they're doing by giving us something as interesting as Thor Ragnarok is fascinating. One of the reasons why I think the Captain America trilogy has been so beloved is because all three of those movies are maybe not wildly different from one another, but they're different enough to make it interesting. Whereas something like Iron Man, it kind of just been three Iron Man movies. Is that fair to say? Slightly different, but not like Captain
Iron Man
America.
1 and Iron Man 3 are very different.
But they're still Iron Man movies, whereas all three the first Captain America film,
same genre.
First Captain America film is a period piece. Second one is a spy movie. Third one is an ensemble. Those are distinct
The third
ideas.
one is an Avengers movie.
So, yeah. And I was sort of talking about this with Kayla. I just saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Sort of the same gang back again, nothing really different. I'm wondering if Ant-Man was cool, because I'd never really seen that before. If Ant-Man 2 is a copycat of Ant-Man 1, am I going to be interested? I don't know.
I think Ant-Man's just getting started. That's me personally.
Well, I do too. I mean,
I thought the first movie was a little uninspired, aside from the visuals.
But I'm sort of, I think after watching Guardians 2, I'm sort of searching, and I'm like, why didn't I enjoy it as much as I did? A lot of it had to do with the story, but I love the first one. I loved it. Am I getting am I looking for? Am I looking for more? And it's you know what I'm saying? Like, it's fascinating to have this discussion too, because we just talked about Star Wars. Think about how much people freak the fuck out when they announce J.J. Abrams because they're yearning for something different in Star Wars, even though we've been starved for Star Wars stuff, but they want something different. People are kind of just fine with some of the Marvel stuff being similar, aren't they? It's just interesting, I think, to compare the two.
Yeah, I remember when I pointed out, I think it was in my Ant-Man review, I pointed out, I was like, this is just Iron Man 1.
Yeah.
People were like, no, no, because of this and this and this. And it's like, yeah, but it's still Iron Man.
Right. Yeah, it's just interesting. Who's going to be the Ryan Johnson of the MCU?
And that's what people, and people are afraid that Black Panther will be the same way. So it's like.
Ryan Coogler is the Ryan Johnson of the MCU. I just saw Creed for the first time. My God. What a great movie. I don't give a shit about Rocky. But you throw Michael B. Jordan and just a great movie in there.
Now, not only do you make more sense as a Michael B. Jordan fan, but you have more context with Tessa Thompson. Whereas first you're like,
honestly, acting wise, maybe stole the movie. Legitimately.
Because whenever I'm like, oh, Tessa Thompson's bae, and you're like, oh yeah, that random girl in Westworld. Okay, Snelling. But now you get it.
Yeah.
Now you get it.
You know who I wasn't a huge fan of in that movie, acting wise?
Let me see. Felicia Rashad?
Michael B. Jordan. Thought he could have been better. I thought he acted better in Friday Night Lights.
Felicia Rashad is Mrs. Huxtable from The Cosby Show. Plays his mom.
What's Sylvester Stallone doing getting that...
He got robbed.
Getting that Oscar nod. I don't think I agree with that. Not about that. Just give it to him because he's old and he has a sad storyline. Come on. We can do better than that.
Mark Rylance won that award that year in a movie where he was like third lead and maybe had like 3 scenes.
Yeah.
And didn't deserve that award.
Right. The true star of Creed was
Ryan
Coogler and Tessa Thompson, in my opinion. Also that music that she made. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, that was not on the Ryan Snelling algorithm. It was nowhere near.
What is it?
Her music that she made.
Oh yeah,
that was like some really out there.
I wouldn't care
R&B
about it
music.
if it was. I just like seeing her do that.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to wrap up the show talking about After Schmoe for a couple reasons.
Why is that?
Well, for one, we didn't do an After Schmoe because of Thanksgiving, and I didn't even tell Christian or Mark. I didn't even tell. I don't know if they even noticed.
It's fine.
Christian's gonna go to his podcast app on Sunday and be like, "Wait, what? Where is it?" And Ellis is not gonna know because he doesn't listen. So anyway, what I just wanted to talk about it. This is actually, we're going to be talking about After Schmoe, and we're going to be talking about Schmoes Know and stuff, but it's because it directly involves sight and sound. At least this part of the conversation does, because some stuff was addressed on the most recent episode of the Schmoes Know live show. It was a pre-recorded episode because of everybody at Collider going on their holiday break or whatever. But so what happened was last week on After Schmoe, if you guys don't know what After Schmoe is, we recap Collider video programming and the Schmoes Know live show. And the way the show's formatted, Jay and I spend a few minutes talking about whatever, and then our theme song plays and brings us into the episode, and that's where we begin our discussion. So those first few minutes, I've always considered to be a flavor of our personality, where we can just kind of cut up and get people engaged, right? Do you agree with that? Is that how you've taken it?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's always been your thing, and it's always been your show, so I've just gone with it. I mean...
Well, that's how you read it, right? That's just what... We have a brief discussion and just kind of...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, just to give you some transparency, and I'm only doing this
Hashtag
because
transparency.
Christian was transparent about our conversations on the show, and so I figured I would get a little transparent as well. There have been times in the past where that opening segment has been too long or maybe too like irrelevant from what After Schmoe is supposed to be about. So Christian has told me before, let's not really do that. Let's kind of get away from that. If you want to have random discuss, and he talked about this on the Schmoes Know Show. If you want to have a random conversation, let it come up organically within the episode. But we want to get people into the episode as quickly as possible. That way they're engaged and you don't turn people off from talking about God knows what at the top of the show. And so we've gone back and forth a couple of times the past few months. But the reason why we're not really transparent with that is because Christian doesn't want our audience to think that our show is being meddled with, which is 100% not the case. And even when Christian does something like that, I mean, it's really, we're talking about.
To be clear, what you're saying is the show itself is not meddled with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm actually surprised that Christian brought this up.
Right.
On the Schmoes Know Show, that there was this much transparency, that we discussed what I should do and not do on our show.
We say all the time that they don't, we don't get a lot of notes, and that's true.
We don't.
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever we have a discussion, we might have had some discussions on the design of the show, but we're never told what to say or anything like that. Sometimes I've gone months without talking to Christian, and I've just done the show. Like it's just, I wouldn't do the show if it was, if we were being puppeteered. I just wouldn't do it.
Well, I think that a lot of that is down to, if I'm being completely honest and again transparent, I think that has to do with the fact that the show in general, whether you agree or not, has been relatively consistent. First of all, it's been on the longest of any of those shows. Fair. I mean, with the exception of like top 10.
Yeah.
Essentially. You've also been a relatively consistent host. Yes, you brought in Brian, and yes, there was some time taken off, but also you know what he's looking for.
I do.
Are there some times when what he's looking for, that sometimes maybe we step out of those bounds from time to time? Absolutely. But it is what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
It's definitely like, I remember even early on too, like back in the Paul Wolf days, I remember a Christian just kind of giving a blanket statement like, I like segments. Okay.
Right.
I like segments too. But even then, like he likes the history lesson. But I mean, again, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and
he just thinks there should be a history element involved because I started watching the Schmoes Know Show in phase 6. So it's like, why would a longtime Schmovillian want to listen to a recap show from a guy in phase 6 when I don't have any context? I know many times I know less than our audience. So he believes in that history segment and things like that.
Yeah, and he and it's funny too, just to give even more insight into the freedom of the show. There are times when I just simply don't get around to putting it together, and he might give me a hard time about that from time to time.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But at the end of the day, it's fine. You know what I mean? It's fine that it doesn't happen, as long as it's known that it does need to happen and we're striving to make it happen.
Right.
That's it's how I view Ken's news. Like, if the news just was never done ever, like, he'd probably, Christian would give him a hard time. Like, why the fuck haven't you done the news? Like, but the fact that it's just like, listen, I want to do the news, I just haven't had time. It's okay.
Yeah, definitely. So anyway, sorry. Last week, our total intro before the theme song was like 6 minutes, and 4 of those minutes I gave a Sight and Sound type Starbucks story.
Right.
And it was because I know that we have a crossover audience now. I know that there are people from Sight and Sound who know that we have a thing. We also host After Schmoe. The
most diehard, and I mean it, diehard After Schmoe listeners are the diehard
Sight and Sound
listeners. Yeah.
So I knew that it would translate well for them. But I'm also the kind of person, and we're on the same wavelength when it comes to this. Like, just kind of talk. I don't think that it's really like. I don't think there's anything wrong with just talking. I get like getting to the point, but like, Christian sent me a text after he heard this. He goes, "Did you forget that I still listen to the show?" 6 minutes on coffee, and I was like, first of all,
okay,
it wasn't 6 minutes on coffee.
Right.
It was 4, so don't exaggerate. And we barely went longer than any other week. And basically where I was coming from after we had this brief texting interaction was, look, I think you need to consider the Sight and Sound audience. You can also consider...
To him, he's probably like looking at our plays, right. And he's like, no.
I mean, I'm right. I'm right when it comes to that, where it's like, but my overall point was that, look, just because I did this here doesn't mean every episode is going to start with 6 minutes on coffee. Like, it happened here, and I didn't, and it just happened. Like, it wasn't like I didn't have to do that, and that's why I didn't want to make a huge deal. I didn't have to talk about coffee. He's right about that. I didn't have to do that there, but it's also not a big deal in the sense that I don't expect him to text me about that.
Right.
And so, to be completely honest, he sent me that text, and I just kind of blew it off. Even though I was like, look, I mean, I get his point, and it ultimately, a story about coffee isn't worth enough to have an argument about it or to fight. I don't need to fight for my right to talk about coffee. Yeah. It's nothing, but it's also nothing. In fact, like, we didn't have to even do this. Like, we didn't have to.
Yeah. My perspective on this whole thing was...
This is a light conversation, by the way. I don't mean to make
absolutely.
This... It's over and done with. I don't want to... I want to make light of this.
My perspective on this, because, mind you, I was also off the grid for this whole thing. So I was going to see Justice League that night. That was fucking random.
Yeah.
What an odd world.
Yeah.
Movies, whatever. But
we talked about it.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. We did. My perspective on this whole thing was this. First of all, you know me and our audience knows me. I'm just the most relaxed, nonchalant, don't give a fuck.
Right.
So my reaction to it was, it's fine, but I will say this. When it was happening, when it was going on, I knew as it was going on, we might be talking a little too long about this for Christian's liking. So is that fair? Is that a fair? Yeah. I mean, that I could care less. I could care less what we do on that show.
Right.
And he's going to be mad at me saying that. That's not what I mean. What I mean is I love that show is whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I love our banter. I love our back and forth. More on that in a second. But I also know what Christian wants from us, and that's what I want to give him. So I was conscious of like, I'll be talking a little longer. Now my response to the interaction,
to be fair, that was I mean, we've been through that before. Like,
absolutely,
he's brought that up to me. Like,
well, especially with you two, not necessarily me.
Right.
But yeah,
maybe trim this down. Maybe make it more. And I get that.
Right.
And we haven't. And sort of where I was coming from was we hadn't done that in so long that I saw that as just an outlier, not as something like, not like a formation of a habit, you know? So it was so nothing to me that's where I was coming. Anyway, go ahead.
The other perspective I had was this. I was also getting information back about this text conversation. I know you very well, and I don't know Christian super well, but I know interactions with him well enough to know that he also might fall in the same camp as you in terms of being a terrible texter. I think that's fair. I think you guys both share that common ground. He's very, very, very dry in text message. And you can be that way too. So my whole thing was like, as the same way as I don't think the coffee thing's that big of a deal, I also didn't think his text message was that big of a deal. I was just like, I think he might just be just kind of giving a shit.
Yeah.
giving you shit more or less.
Oh, he was.
I think he knows he can push your buttons a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
he definitely wasn't doing that though, because when I texted back, like, maybe you should consider Sight and Sound, is this really worth texting me about? Like, I said all of that to him.
Right.
And his response was, man, when you say stuff like that, it makes me nervous. And I was like,
I think
why?
that's a fair assessment, because
Why?
I think that's kind of like, man, I was just saying this and like you wanted to go full deep with it. It was like,
I didn't want him to overthink it. Like, I just wanted him to let it go. Like, it's not a big
right.
deal.
Did you overthink it though?
So let's get to where. Okay, so there was this portion where he privately texted me,
Right.
And the reason why we're talking about it now is because the Schmoes, we didn't do after Schmoe,
right?
But Christian and Mark fully addressed this.
Pretty long segment. The longest we talked about Sight and Sound on the Schmoes Know, or not Sight and Sound.
Well, kind of.
Well, us
in a way,
in a long time.
So this is the conversation.
Not that they have to.
The conversation Jay and I are about to continue to have is basically what we would have done on After Schmoe this week.
Right.
We're now reacting to the Schmoes Know Show. So what happened on the Schmoes Know Show was Christian and Mark had a huge back and forth as to the fact that I did this. And there's a lot of stuff that I want to unpack here. And you were on hiatus or whatever, so I'm going to fill in.
I did. I mean, I paid attention. I watched this whole thing.
So there's a couple of interesting things here. For one, before I watched the show, I got a message from our buddy Kristen Smith. So without any context, she sends me a text saying something like, "So, are you for sure going to stop talking about Starbucks now on After Schmoe?" And I read that text and I go, "Oh no, what just happened on the live show?" So I want you to guess. I'm not going to tell you. We haven't talked about this prior. I first, without seeing the live show,
right.
I first find out that Christian took that take and discussed it on the Schmoes Know live show. What do you think my emotional response was?
Well, the way this all played out was you made me privy to this information, because I actually didn't know they were doing a show, because again, off the grid, and I didn't even. I mean, I was really off the grid, and so of course I was like laying in bed. I think you were doing your Friendsgiving at the time, and I was like, okay, I'll check this out. I was so glad it played out the way that it did, because I knew that you were probably on the defensive a little bit about it. But I'm glad that I watched it and I presented you with my take, because my take was, hey, man, watch this. It was all in good fun.
Yeah.
They gave a little, like we gave a little. They poked. We poked. Right. I only had one annoying takeaway.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Because we agree on this. So to answer the question that I posed here, anytime anything like this happens, my immediate emotional response is annoyed, pissed, mad, paranoid.
Yeah.
Like, how could they do this? And this is before I even know what actually happened on the show. I'm already mad. Like, okay, really? But I watched it play out. And I think a year ago, I would have been more like the Snelling from a year ago would have been more annoyed or anxious by this.
Right.
As I watched it, I got over it so quick.
It's a much different time a year ago than it was today.
Yeah. I got over this discussion so quick because I still have the exact same take. Like, guys, it's not a big deal. But it is funny that they had a back and forth about this. It delights me to know that it made the title of the Schmoes Know Show, which is an After Schmoe first.
Right.
Something that we've talked about, and it didn't have anything to do with Collider or Schmoes. It was purely about me talking about coffee, and that made the Schmoes Know title, Don't Talk About Coffee. And I was just delighted by that. And look, we've talked about it on Sight and Sound before.
Yeah.
I'm getting to this point, this place in my life where I sort of welcome any publicity.
Are you talking about highly suspect level?
I invite any feud. If Christian and Mark want to destroy Sight and Sound live on Schmoes Know Show, I am all about it, because ultimately it makes us a bigger deal.
Well, absolutely, because listen, if we can't get upset about them ever shitting on us because that's all we do on After Schmoe is shit on them. That's not true at all. Listen, I think the reason why they're so brilliant, they've been doing this a long time. I mean, they are OG YouTube, they're OG podcasters. And I respect the hell out of both of those guys because they were able to turn this sort of mild complaint that they had about our show into one actually really funny bit.
Yeah.
To where they were poking at us, but also they ended up turning it into poking at each other. Also turning it into a fantastic sort of promotion for our show, which was nice too, because not only did they go on this whole thing, but they also turned it into talking about what they enjoyed about us as well, which is essentially an echo of what we do on our show.
Yeah.
Where I did have an issue with it, listen, okay. For those that don't know anything about Mark Ellis, what you can know about him is he is this guy out in California. He works with Collider. He's a stand-up comedian. He is a paid regular at the Comedy Store, the biggest comedy club arguably in the world. And he is one of the most genuine people on the face of this earth.
He also is the only person, especially between Mark and Christian, but out of anyone in that building, he's the only person that I consider a personal friend of mine, whether he reciprocates that or not, but met him a couple times. The night before they did this show, he called me out of the blue just to see what was going on. So I actually talked to him on the phone and had no knowledge that he was going to be doing this, which I thought was funny because in retrospect, I was wondering, like, why didn't we talk about this on the phone? Because it would have been pretty funny. But he didn't let me know that he listened to the bit or anything like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, continue.
Well, the other thing that was fascinating was just that Mark listens more regularly than we think he does, which is fine. I appreciate that. That's cool. I would never, get down on him for not talking about the show and having sort of his own method. That's completely fine. The only issue I took with him is necessary, or it's not necessarily an issue with him. It's an issue that comes up from time to time when our show is discussed, is that one, all we do is sort of pick at people, which is not the case. Our show is meant to be informative and exploratory and a deep dive on all things Schmoes and Collider related, and I think we do a really good job at that.
It's also just supposed to be an audible version of what goes on in that Facebook group. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, there's a reason I think it's evolved out of just being called the Schmoville podcast. Like the one of my favorite things that's ever happened on that show was when Joel listened to our show for the first time and found our discussions to be really, really in depth, because that's what I want to bring to the table. That's what I want us to bring to the table, because we do that very well, I think, with pop culture stuff in general. I think it's great to do it for that landscape. But we're also there to be entertaining. And we are there to satirize and poke fun at all the personalities there and this and that. And I hate the fact that, and it's a human interaction. I do it on my YouTube videos. Like, there's tons of good comments, but you focus on the negative ones and this and that. I like the stuff that we do poke fun at with people, Beardo being in particular. I've gone on record multiple times. We've both gone on record multiple times saying how much we enjoy his podcasts, and Cobster being another one. We might poke fun at Cobster, but there is no harder working person, I'm convinced, in that entire studio than Cobster. So it's just like, if they're going to talk about the poking fun stuff, I would like them to talk about the positive stuff as well, which Christian did that night. And it's just like,
it was just like, but what I thought was interesting about Ellis doing that is because the past couple of weeks, for other reasons, I brought up Ellis being on the defensive.
Yeah.
And there were a couple times where you were like, I didn't really think that. Right. It was weird that he had that tone towards us. And I was just kind of like, why are you upset? Like,
well, I didn't
get it.
I think he got guarded of his crew. And I get that 100%, because the point that he made, and I'm conscious of this, is that he doesn't want us being, some sort of commentary.
He doesn't want us to open the floodgates when it comes to
for
allowing
for
the
other
fans.
And I get that. I get that 100%. But listen, and to his credit, there are people that have a hard time blurring the line. I mean, there's still a thing about us not liking Makuga, which is just not the case, as much as we joke about it. But people have a hard time blurring those lines.
Yeah.
And I get that. And listen, they have a much greater experience at doing this than I do at a much bigger scale. But listen, for every idiot out there that has trouble blurring the lines of why do you guys have a problem with Makuga, you've got to embrace the people that are in on the shtick and the gist. And listen, the word shtick gets thrown around a lot, and it's not fun when the shtick goes outside of the box. There's also, if you go through my Twitter, there is an absolutely glowing positive tweet that I sent Beardo specifically directly about how much I enjoyed his show. So it's just like, come on, guys, give us a little bit of credit.
Well,
in that
I
regard.
think what's actually frustrating, and I don't know if Ellis was actually talking about us or not, but he said something like he doesn't think it's right for the fans to do what they get to do as friends. And I kind of resented that in a way. Because it's like Christian has that carpool show.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about his experience in working in the WWE. And he had the story where he first met Stephanie McMahon.
Mm-hmm.
And told Stephanie McMahon he was really excitable, and he was like, "Oh man, I just met," and I couldn't remember who it was in the hallway. And Stephanie McMahon says to him, "You got to remember, you're not a fan anymore. You're a part of this."
Right.
And I don't think Christian has ever said that to me.
Yeah.
But once I was given this position of the host of SK Plus, that's how I feel. I'm not a fan. Now I am a host on SK Plus,
right?
And with the exception of the top 10, helped shepherd what became SK Plus.
Right.
So I resent being called a fan. Yes, do I get excited and would I get nervous meeting these people? Maybe,
right.
But the shine of these personalities is worn off because I've just gotten to work with them and become friendly with people like Ellis and Riley. So I resent that. But again, I don't know if he was talking about us. He might have been using the word fans as someone else.
Yeah.
But if he was lumping me into that, I don't care for that. The other thing that frustrated me too is that in my run on After Schmoe, I have done nothing but try to be friendly and communicate and just casually talk to these people. And I get that they're very busy.
Right.
But I've just tried to get to know them. And that's been one of the weirder things with After Schmoe.
Yeah.
Is it hasn't gone down exactly the way that I thought it would. But I just didn't care for that tone.
Yeah, and it does. I don't know, man. It's fascinating because, with the exception of some of the Rundown crew, we're the only people that don't interact with them on a personal level. I mean, we've never even been out to California.
Right.
Well, we've never even been out to LA. And it's one of those, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but it's just like, if you could just sit down. I mean, granted, Mark has sat down with us for a limited amount of time, but it's kind of just like, man, if you just spent a day with us, you could understand what our personalities like.
Right.
Like, for instance, when that thing happened with Christian and I that was just like, dude, I am the last person on the face of this earth that you should ever be frustrated with. I am the most low-key dude. If anybody was ever annoyed with something that was my take, you could probably chalk it up to what happened that day was just, hey, he probably had a bad day. It's just like...
What's funny about that is, like, again, even though I've spoken to Ellis many times, the phone conversation earlier this week, even that was awkward.
Yeah.
Because there's still distance and
right.
We don't talk to each other on the phone all the time. So there's still that weird distance as far as, like, not knowing each other that well, but also because, it's a long distance call. I mean, like, even that phone call had an element of awkward to it that I wish wasn't there, but it was.
Yeah.
So it's just like, if we could have some time set aside where we got to know all these people better, especially all the people like the Wangers that just have never talked to us.
Right.
I don't know. It's just that I feel like that is always frustrating me after so much time has gone by. And I mean, we'll be coming up on 2 years here in about 3 months that this show has existed. And the fact that that's still there annoys me. But anyway, I didn't mean to make this it's supposed to be light. Anyway, I just thought it was funny that we did this whole Sight and Sound thing and it became a Schmoes Know headline. And it was also great, and you pointed this out. So many Sight and Sounders were in the comment section on YouTube defending us, saying that they love to hear our takes.
Not just on the comments. I mean, we were on air right now, and like I think Evan DeGraff tweeted at us and just to show his support, as if it was like this injustice has been done. But what I find amusing is some of these people they don't want to attach Christian or Mark to some of these. I'm just gonna start quoting all the tweets and be like, I do think that's funny. Like, I get that mindset because there would have been time where I was self-conscious of like doing that, tweeting Christian something that nobody's gonna get fired over Coffeegate,
right?
Just relax.
But it's funny to have the like I don't take Christian as seriously as some other fans might, so it's just funny to see that now, sort of in retrospect. But
it's going to be an interesting time. I think, we talk about the next year for Sight and Sound. I think the next year for After Schmoe is just as interesting because of all the changes going on at Collider. I mean, I don't know what's in store for us specifically, but there's going to be a lot to cover, I think. And I don't know, man. Like, you know what? I try to make goals for myself. I think it should be a pretty, definitely don't have the money to do it right now, but I think it should be a pretty significant goal to go out there and just have some FaceTime with those guys for sure. I mean, and again, I don't want it to be business necessarily. I mean, whatever.
I don't either.
That's one thing I remember when we did go up to Cincinnati, and I told you because I think you would bat around the idea of podcasting. Well, you made the video, but I think I told you I was like, man, let's just be casual with it. We can do the video. Wasn't a big deal. Let's just because sometimes, it just doesn't need to be like that all the time. We're always,
for instance, like if he came here, I would just want to hang out.
Yeah.
Like, take him somewhere that we know in Lexington or wherever it might be, and we would just talk. I mean, it doesn't have to be.
And that's another thing too. I mean, granted, you've podcasted with some of these people, especially Mark, pretty frequently. But like when I had RB3 on there, I mean, I never talked to RB3 outside of a few DMs, and I think that was kind of a breakthrough, just to be like, man, listen, like I'm a content creator, just like every single person around you, and we have some common ground to talk about stuff, and we had a great time on that podcast.
Right.
I think Cobster is going to come join me pretty soon. We've had some scheduling conflicts, but other than that, should be pretty interesting.
If anybody cares, some fun stuff is coming on After Schmoe. I've come up with two they're still a work in progress, but I have two really great ideas for segments, and I think I don't know. I feel like After Schmoe has been the same for a while, so I like the idea of when you don't have a history lesson, throwing in another fun segment.
Yeah.
When we live take a break, I can enter in something fun. I've got a couple ideas for that, and they will all of them parody, satirize, make light of everything going on at Schmoes Know. So Christian and Mark better get used to it. I'm really excited. So after Schmoe fans, I would get excited for what's coming.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting times. I'm stressed out about 2018. I just want to finish more than music. I just want to make everybody happy. Just want to get Patreon up and going. That'll be the next thing we tackle very soon. More movie episodes? 2018?
More as in, will they exist? Yes.
I'm just going to do that thing that I did that one time and just give you topics. Just do them.
I thought about just copying whatever you do for music.
There you go.
No, I mean, it's just, I won't make any promises, but it's obviously my thing, and I'll do it whenever I got something for you.
Absolutely. We've got...
I'm still there. I'm still always game to do TV. We're always pumping out TV.
We've got Secret Project. And we also have another secret project.
We have the Harry Potter secret project. Yeah.
And we have potential game show secret project. Not really a game show, but it's something that involves people
having fun.
Definitely having fun, and definitely exciting times ahead. You got anything else?
I had a Starbucks story. I'm just joking.
I actually did have a Starbucks story. You want my Starbucks story real quick?
I was going to talk about Tinder, but
I'm going to give you my Starbucks story real quick because it's actually pretty funny. So
you got 3 minutes.
I went through the other, when was it? I guess it was yesterday, and it was sort of an impromptu trip. We were going to Kayla's parents' house, and I was like, hey,
you go to Starbucks every day. How is that impromptu?
Not every day, I don't, especially in the wintertime, because I only drink hot coffee in the winter and I can make that at home.
Fair.
So I said, hey, do you guys want to go to Starbucks? The answer was yes. And I had to go through the drive-through, so I didn't use the app. And doing my order not on the app and actually having to verbalize it is way too complicated to talk about. I also wasn't really craving a coffee, so I got a venti. I ordered a venti. Didn't order my extra shot of espresso. I said I want a venti cold brew with heavy cream, 3 pumps of sugar-free cinnamon dolce. And the second I said sugar-free cinnamon dolce, they said, Jay? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's me. And they said, oh, okay. All right. So I pulled around. They just completely, listen. So I changed up my order. I got a venti instead of a Trenta and no shot of espresso. They completely ignored my order and just gave me the normal thing that I ordered and charged me for the thing that was less money. They just ignored my order. So even when I order something, I can't get it right when I order it with my mouth. It even said on the little tag on the side the order that they didn't give me. It said venti and they gave me the Trenta. What a mess. I appreciate it, but you guys are just making it too easy to tell stories about you on the podcast. What if they've listened secretly? What if they were like, I'm going to Google this Jay guy, and they saw the shit that we do?
Let me tell you this.
Yeah.
I got a drink on that Black Friday trip.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge,
did you get a black tea on Black Friday?
No. It was a venti iced coffee with light heavy cream. No. 4 pumps of classic, which I believe is either 1 or 2 less than what actually comes at a venti.
A 4 is in a grande.
Okay, right, exactly. Yeah. So I got 4 pumps of classic, some
Eric's
light.
Like, well, actually, it's
light heavy cream. Eric and I did a mini thing on Friendsgiving where I ranted about Starbucks and he told me why I was wrong and I told him why he was wrong. Should have recorded it. Anyway, the drink was okay. I added cinnamon to it. I think I saw you. Do you get cinnamon in your drink?
I get sugar-free cinnamon dolce, yeah.
I read that cinnamon is a great anti-inflammatory. Mm-hmm. So I figured I would throw that in there.
I mean, I feel like it's just extract, but okay. Did you get the dust? Cinnamon dust?
Yeah, I get powder.
The dust.
The powder on top.
Yeah.
I ordered the exact same drink today, and it was maybe 3 times sweeter.
Yep.
Completely white.
Yep.
And it was the same fucking drink that I ordered the night before.
Yeah. Well, I think in 2018, I'm going to call a meeting with the Starbucks people and just say, listen, guys, it needs to be more consistent.
I am going to start tweeting at them every fucking day.
Should we buy stock in Starbucks?
What would that do?
As a company? I don't know.
So we could be shareholders and be like, let's take a look at this region and fix the consistency.
No, I mean, just so I can address this area of our neighboring counties.
The first thing I would do as shareholder of Starbucks, please introduce fountain drinks.
My first thing as
get a Coke machine.
My first order as a shareholder of Starbucks is I want to meet the Lucius Fox of the Starbucks industry. So,
R&D.
Yeah, I'm trying to be like the Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
So I can moonlight.
I think that would be a much more interesting job at a Taco Bell because they are very inventive
Yeah,
they
they're
always
giving you
talk
that
about-
rubber beef. Or
They
whatever
always
it is.
talk about the test kitchen, and they come up with new food that's never existed before.
Ugh.
I
Hey, in 2018, can we get more keto meals places or keto menus?
I went to get that same drink that I described at Starbucks. I told them the light heavy cream, and they said that they were out of heavy cream.
You should have said, "Are you out of light heavy cream?"
What the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah. Here's my favorite thing.
The
You know where you can never be out of light heavy cream? The Starbucks that's inside our Kroger. You just walk over there and get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WhatUpSnell. Please follow me there so you can keep track of the top 50 superhero movie polls that I have up now, and it will build to whatever. Just follow me, and that way you know how that story develops. The other thing is that we finally released, you guys saw all those Brave the Storm songs I put up, all those podcasts. That was all building up to a reunion show that the band did. We came together for the first time in 2.5 years to record a podcast. That went up exclusively on our Facebook page. So if you haven't yet, go to facebook.com/BraveTheStormKY. Like that. But I'm also putting it up on Sight and Sound. And then we'll take a break from all the Brave the Storm content. So you will see that pop up this week. So there's that. And that's all I got. Be on the lookout for some dope Mr. Robot t-shirts.
That's right. You can find me on social media at Jaye Williams, J the letter of the E. Twitter and Instagram. It's the same for both. Also, every Friday on the music show. And just to give a quick announcement for everybody interested and excited about my album of the year list, I've got some dates for you. December 1st, we're kicking off list season that runs until like mid-February, maybe something like that. And December 15th, that's when I'm dropping my standalone singles video.
That's
on
when
our
Star
YouTube
Wars
channel.
comes out.
That's right. Gonna share the date. December 18th, either my 30 through 21 or my 25 through 21. And then the next few days after that, on December 20th, my top 10 album of the year video is going to come out. We're also doing our Pop Culture Crown the week before Christmas. That's when it's going to happen because I won't be here after that. And we're going to crown the Pop Culture Crown on one of the tiers of pop culture.
One last shameless plug. My birthday is tomorrow. And what was the other thing I was going to...
Can't wait until you see what I got you.
Please do not get me fucking anything. There was one more thing I was going to bring up. Shit. Oh, can we do a t-shirt that says Sight and Sound drinking game, and it's a list, and
sure.
We have an official,
Yeah.
and I think that would be great.
Got some interesting shirt
It'd
ideas
be like
coming.
that's like a Spencer gift t-shirt idea where you go in, you see some like the I don't know, bro laws, and it's a list of things. I think a Sight and Sound drinking game shirt where it says Jay keeps his ear to the ground. I don't know. I think that would be fun.
I want to hire somebody that can do legitimate like airbrush paintings, and I want to get one of those like spring break airbrush tees and have like our faces and caricatures, but also Indy and Dolly on it too. Have like something that's, I don't know, something that's dead with like a date on it.
With Starbucks drinks in hands that are actually like, instead of coloring in a coffee, it'll be transparent and it's just the white t-shirt.
I might work on a mock satire Starbucks logo with the Sight and Sound eye in it or something like that to put on a t-shirt. Sight and Sound Bucks.
More consistent than Starbucks drinks.
Why is that coffee white? All right, we'll see you guys later. Goodbye.